at Central Park, New York City, the area of 86th Street and Central Park West. This site has been designated as Seneca Village as a tourist site. But originally, this was a site that was inhabited by African Americans in the city of New York City. In 1827, slavery was abolished in New York City, and the conditions in Lower Manhattan were becoming very crowded due to immigrant population that had recently influxed the city. African Americans were able to start buying property in the northern part of Manhattan. This area was designated by the city as being rocky and being a swamp and being uninhabitable. But African Americans had moved there and had settled there and had begun to thrive in this community. After the powers had been noticed that African Americans were thriving here, they decided that they wanted this property to expand and build the park. And by the law of eminent domain, they began to take property from African Americans and force African Americans out. And by 1857, most of the African Americans had been moved from this site. As stated, in 1827, the population of New York City was beginning to grow, and a large number of African Americans started to move northward. Although in 1827 slavery was abolished, there were still pockets of racism in the city, which forced African Americans to move northward to this area here. By 1855, African Americans, a small number of Irish, and a small number of German immigrants had moved to this area, but it was predominantly African American settlement. Also in 1855, the African American population began to thrive here. Once again, the city noticed that this population was thriving, and they decided that they wanted to take this property over. And by 1857, most of the African Americans were forced out of this area by eminent domain. As we can see by the historical timeline outlined here, by 1815, surveyors started to look at this property, and they decided that they wanted to use this property for themselves. And if you really study the timeline, it will see that African Americans started to move in this area, they started to thrive, and by 1857 or so, they were asked to move out of this property. In the early 1990s, this area was discovered, and it was realized that this was once a very thriving African American community. And the New York City Council and the New York City government decided to make this a historical site.
Juneteenth, a day of joy, reflection, and resilience. But what exactly is Juneteenth, and why does it matter so much? Join us as we dive into the riveting history of Juneteenth, from the dark days of slavery to the triumphant Declaration of Freedom. This is a story every American should know. The Civil War raged on from 1861 to 1865, a brutal conflict that tore the nation apart. Over 600,000 soldiers lost their lives, and the nation faced its greatest existential crisis. But amidst the bloodshed, a monumental change was brewing. President Abraham Lincoln made a historic move. On January 1, 1863, he issued the Emancipation Proclamation, declaring that all enslaved people in Confederate states shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free. Sounds like the end of slavery, right? Not quite. The reality was far more complex. The Emancipation Proclamation didn't instantly free all enslaved people. It applied only to Confederate-controlled areas, leaving many in bondage until Union troops could enforce the order. This was a crucial turning point, but the path to true freedom was still long and fraught with obstacles. Isolated from the major battles in a Confederate stronghold, Texas became a refuge for slaveholders looking to escape the reach of Union forces. By 1865, over 250,000 enslaved people were in Texas, still unaware of their freedom. But everything changed on June 19, 1865. Union General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, with a message that would alter history. Standing on the balcony of Ashton Villa, he read General Order No. 3, announcing the end of slavery in Texas.
The people of Texas are informed that, in accordance with a proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. This involves an absolute equality of personal rights and rights of property between former masters and slaves.
Imagine hearing those words after years of unimaginable hardship. For the newly freed people of Texas, it was a moment of jubilation and profound relief. This day, June 19th, would come to be known as Juneteenth.
I'm currently sitting at 86th Street and Central Park West, which is one of the entrances in the park where you can access Seneca Village. I just want to speak briefly about the connection of history here and Juneteenth and why I became involved with the Juneteenth Foundation and the Juneteenth organization, Juneteenth New York City. In 1985, I had a very good friend who lived in the Bronx, New York, who had just recently got married. And him and his wife decided to move down to Garland, Texas, which is not far from Dallas, Texas. And after he was there for a year in '86, I decided to go visit him. And upon visiting him, we were out one day going shopping, and we met a young lady that he knew in the neighborhood. And I let this lady know that I was visiting from New York City. And she said to me, well, while you're here, we're going to have a Juneteenth barbecue. And I said, well, what is Juneteenth? I had no knowledge whatsoever. I was never taught about Juneteenth. How, after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed in 1865, it would take a full year and a half before Union troops reached Galveston, Texas, to let the slaves know that they had been freed. And they had been freed for over a year, nearly 2 years, and they did not know. Union troops had came to Galveston, Texas to announce to the still slaves that they were free. This would take a year and a half after, nearly 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was enacted. Many people in the North didn't even know about Juneteenth as myself because I wasn't taught this in the New York City school system and I wasn't taught this in college. So Juneteenth became a state holiday in the state of Texas in 1980. And then recently, as a result, and being moved by the George Floyd movement, our then Governor Andrew Cuomo decided to make Juneteenth a state holiday in 2021. We are currently standing on the point in Seneca Village known as Summit Rock. Summit Rock was a very significant meeting place for the African American residents that lived here at the time. It was very popular because here's where the residents met. In 1857, the residents of this area were forced by eminent domain to move out. If you require additional information concerning Seneca Village, the Juneteenth Advisory Board, you could visit our website at www.juneteenth.com.